From the southernmost point of Dorne to the lands of always winter, what is west of Westeros, and the shadows in the east, including those shadows today in Mordor. This is Casterly Talk. I'm Cat Napzok. This is a live Q&A edition coming in hot. We'll explain if you're watching live or you're listening later. We hope you do both. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got special exclusive things coming there. And also, don't forget to catch the podcast side as well. Take us with you when you go. Speaking of taking us with you, I love bringing these two folks along. You know him. He's regular around these parts. He is the Twitter thread man. I don't know. Is that a nickname? Is that a nickname for him? We'll figure it out. Also, coming back to the show. But joining us for the entire episode is Lauren Romo. Friends, how are you all doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. You said Shadows of the East. You said Mordor, and Florida's here in the East Coast, and it looks pretty dark outside right now. So I'm gonna say that I'm in Mordor right now. I'm the brave one for being here in Mordor. I did walk right in.
You are brave. If you're like, hey, you're listening or watching on YouTube, Alden's camera's a little messed up. Literally, I think there's hurricane winds outside your window, right, Alden?
Yeah, something like that. Hurricane winds, or I spent too much time today poring over fantasy notes and I conjured something by accident.
You conjured something indeed. So bear with us. You can hear him, even if occasionally he fades in and out on video. But also join us, like I said, a full show today. Lauren Romo from Galactic Podcast is here. Romo, how you doing? Any storms up there near Tiger Stadium?
No, we are storm clear right now so far. So I think in a couple of days we're supposed to. But yeah, all is well up here in the north, I will call it, because we are getting ready for winter. For sure. Those months are coming.
We are all knights of summer, and the winter, well, the winter's here in a lot of ways. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to take a look at the Rings of Power trailer that came out. We're going to look at it. We're going to take your questions. Alden's done a great job lead producing the show today because I was on a wonderful movie and TV locations tour today. My friend Paul Preston, some of you might know him from the Movie Guys, along with Adam Witt. He has a great tour location in LA, and I was taking one to kind of, help spread the word about the business. So if you're in town or coming to LA and want a good movie tour location, Paul Preston's your guy. But also, there were so many things. I literally just sat down on my chair, literally here. So I text Alden and I said, help me, please be like Gandalf returning to me at now at the turn of the tide. So there we go. What do we got here? We got some people coming on in here. We've got Brett Mars here. Christy McGee says, I can see your messages. I don't know what's going on there. Crafted Jedi. Oh, we're checking on Crafted Jedi. I can see your message. We are here. Yeah, YouTube is maybe there's just storms everywhere here today. We are coming out of the first episode of House of the Dragon, which was tremendously watched. What was the number? Alden, Lauren, 10 million
views? So like 9.9 for those of us in the industry. But yeah, it was I mean, the biggest HBO premiere ever. Biggest HBO premiere ever.
Even over John from Cincinnati?
Over that, over Silicon Valley, over what's the other one? Sex and the City, and the sequel. Sopranos, yeah. And it's funny because I believe the season 8 premiere and finale drew their biggest. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Season 8 finale, I think, was like 19 million people, worldwide event. But to go from 19 to 10 after everyone insisted, no one cared.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
Yeah, and you're always going to start smaller than probably what you hope you grow into, or you fade away. We'll see. We did a deep dive on the episode. You can catch that on the podcast feed here on the YouTube channel. Andres Cabrera joined us for a good portion of the show, and Alden and I broke it down. We took a deep dive into those themes. Lauren's here. I want to get some Lauren's thoughts on this episode too, as well. And look, the episode came and already brought with it a little bit of hot take, controversy inducing kind of stuff, as you kind of would think it would. And if questions come in, we'll take it as it as the questions come in. I have thoughts. I have thoughts, complicated, layered. Like I hope everyone does. It's not necessarily looking at one particular aspect and thinking it's just you can have a binary response. There's a lot to it there. So just putting that out there on the top, we can dive into it as it goes. But Lauren, I absolutely want to hear some of your thoughts on this episode, and maybe even some of the stuff that the episode was trying to do, and whether or not it hit on all cylinders and communicated well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, for me, that I'm just a show fan. I haven't read the books or anything, so I was very excited to get back into this world, and I was hoping to just have it start off like, okay, we're back. Here's kind of the players you're going to be watching in the series. This is the backstabbing, the starting of, and it met every expectation. You know, obviously the acting was great, the music was superb, the just the overall production, you can tell, is just fabulous. Really big for me. I was looking and excited for Alicent Hightower because she intrigued me in the trailers, and her in Rhaenyra, I think it's Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra, their relationship I found very interesting. And then obviously we know what's to come, like looking at the trailers. So I'm like, man, this is going to be, I'm intrigued in that storyline. Obviously, Damon Targaryen, Matt Smith, wow, just every scene he stole, so good. Just the overall, I think, you know, you can see where everything's going. You know, Otto Hightower versus Damon, Lord Corlys versus maybe those two. Like, you really, where's everybody's allegiance? That's one of the great parts of Game of Thrones, because you really don't know. One day it could be, you know, they align with somebody, the next day they're not. They're setting up a lot, and I'm just so excited to be back in this world. It was a nice little prologue, I feel like, setting up into this, into the rest of the series for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that idea of. I heard that a little bit out there on Twitter too. Of this whole episode kind of felt like a prologue, even though we're going to stay with these characters in this time. It seems for a little bit, and we'll talk some of those time jump things. And I love that perspective. If you just joined us, whether you're a Lord of the Rings fan or a Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, now House of Dragon fan, we love having folks pop in from all different points of view. Experiences and levels of fandom. Whether you're just, hey, I watched the show, I read the books, I know everything about it. We want you all here, and it's the place to take in all those thoughts. That said, because I really love hearing from you, Lauren, going, hey, you're right. I can't roll off a long list of characters from this era because I don't know, and I'm here to learn with the rest of the general public audience. And you kind of felt this worked in that way. That is what I'm gathering. It pulled you back in, new names, new dynamics to learn, including those Damon dynamics, as Andres Cabrera said in our review. and you kind of feel you're getting up to speed pretty decently right then, huh?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And you know, it was interesting how they really set up that episode. First saying, you know, they did that little kind of prologue of, you know, King Daenerys, and they kind of set that up. So you're like, okay, now we know where we are. And then they did that beautiful graphic of like 172 years before Daenerys. So like they were making it clear for people that maybe, again, are more casual that, okay, this is before Game of Thrones. So they were kind of really setting that stage. I think for viewers like myself too, like, okay, now I got it in my headspace. I know we're kind of where we are. I know the last names, you know, you hear Stark, you hear Baratheon throughout the episode too. So like you were kind of familiar with these names, and I'm just, just the political intrigue, man. I'm so ready. I'm so ready to.
Well, look at I love this. Love this comment here from Big Lou's Workshop. I've made an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of the names and relationships.
Smart.
I think that is actually, you know, Big Lou might be able to sell those in the in the quad during lunch for all the other kids trying to study here.
Exactly.
Of that there. I know Alden. I don't know if you can hear me. I know some tech problems there. The storm brewing, but you're back. A couple days after, and you hear Lauren's thoughts. What do you think about this episode still in terms of bringing us back in the world, the players, all this kind of thing, pieces on the board?
Well, one thing I love about what you said, Lauren, was the idea of we're not sure what the allegiances are, but we get a shade or a flavor of the allegiance. You get a feel of how Corlys feels for Damon, but we also get enough of Damon to know that, you know, Corlys is a smart guy, and he probably knows he's playing with fire in backing him. You get to see a little bit of Otto and Corlys. You get to see a little bit of, is it Breezeberry, Ken? Lord Breezeberry, who's hanging out there, as well as Strong. So
Yeah,
it's
looks
sort
fun.
of a great example of like in Made Us Rest, like it throws you in there with a bunch of guys that are all in their 40s and they all go back to when they were in their 20s and you're not sure who has beef. And so you're just looking at them like this table has seen things and not everybody likes each other. And I don't know why, because it's sort of throwing you in the middle. Even though it is a beginning, it's very Star Warsy in that way. It's Lord of the Rings kind of does that too. So it's only grown on me. I've watched it a couple more times since.
Yeah,
But,
same. Yeah, I love that. It's almost like you've worked in and around digital media, especially the movie talk space. I'm at a table with people who all here hates each other, but doesn't show it.
yeah.
That's a small council meeting there. Lord, some of the bigger stuff in the episode, some of the themes, what the episode was trying to communicate. What anything grab you there, and good or bad in the episode?
Yeah, I think the big thing is family loyalty. I mean, Damon and Viserys, like you could tell in the beginning he was very protective of his brother. Like, oh no, he's gonna be on the council. He will do what I ask. Don't worry, I have him under control. Then obviously Damon does what Damon does, and he
Damon does
has
what Damon does.
right, and he has to defend him. But then he hears of obviously him calling his lost son, the heir of the day, and again, is that an accurate, again, because Game of Thrones, how accurate is Otto's, I had this on good source. Okay. Like, again, who do you believe?
I want to jump in on that, Lauren. You brought that up, and I've seen that come up a couple times in the discussion this week. I really like that idea because there's this idea, and we talk about it, all three of us on the Star Wars side. What characters say isn't necessarily fact. It isn't necessarily canon. If Kylo Ren is saying something horrible to Rey, it's because that's his point of view, perspective. That's not even just a villain, but just who he is in that universe to her. We don't. Otto. A lot of people are suspicious of Otto over this particular moment. And look, it's been a little bit since I've dug into Fire and Blood, so like I can't track all the movements in my brain right away. I know kind of where we're going. But I love that. I love that you picked up on that. You got Otto feelings either way?
Yeah, I at first he was cool. Like I was like, oh, okay, he seems like a genuine guy, just wants what's good for the realm. And then, he does that to Damon. And then he talks to his daughter, Alicent, and was like, oh, by the way, why don't you go, hang out with the king that just lost his wife, like, I don't know, 24 hours ago, not even. And then why don't you wear what your mother would wear? Like, oh my God, dude, like we are right back into it. Like just the piece moves, the chess moves that are being played already. I mean, he wrote, obviously we know he wrote a letter to Old Town. What was that all about? Like, was that his plans? Like, again, you start off really solid, I think, in this opener, and just really set that stage of like, okay, here we go. Here's the chess pieces. We're back into it. Let's watch it all unfold. It was a great episode. I'm really excited to see what happens in the time jumps that we know are going to happen. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun this year.
We'll get to some of those questions there. That's great stuff. Alden, we love hearing that complicated feelings for any characters, but particularly Otto. I don't know why. It's that Tywin vibe, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a similar energy of somebody that is utterly composed and is completely professional, even if what they're doing is horrible. Yeah. Like he handled Alicent with a gentle hand. Nobody can deny that. A hug, nurturing. She lives well. She clearly cares about education. Like this is a good kid. So somebody did a good job. I'm not sure when she lost her mother. Probably give more credit to her. But you see Otto, he's handling this, I would argue, with more of a tenderness than Tywin handles his children.
Sure.
Absolutely. Tyrion, of course. But so he has those elements of I can be a certain way. I can make people believe certain things. Viserys passionately sticks up for him later on during the brotherly confrontation. Says he has more honor than you could ever hope to have, or more of a man of honor than you'll ever be, I think is what it is. And it's like, well, he presents really well. But as my mother said when I watched the episode with her, there was a long pause, and she said, Did he just pimp his daughter out? And I was like, yes, you're correct. So immediately that is it's sort of like, it's not as bombastic or horrifying as like pushing a kid out of a tower window,
Yeah.
but it's immediately that bam, here's the truth of who I am, which was really, I thought, effective.
Yeah, and a lot of what this first episode was talking about the roles of women and the choice they don't have in all of these roles, and how they react to it, the Rhaenyra and Alicent of it all, and they're deep, and this is a very haunting episode at times, and a very brutal episode at times, and perhaps too far for some folks at times, and I think all those are valid opinions on this episode and the scene, but I do believe this episode was coming out pretty hard about what it was saying, and none of it good about everyone says this time as if it's real. I know that, but it's a comment. This is art, and it's commenting on our real world and our real world for a long time now. So yeah, I thought that was a good way to describe Otto. He is a carry dead. What did he just do? And Alicent, as she picks away, keep highlighting, picking away at her own thumb, her own finger until it's bloody. How she has to try to deal with it. It's tough there.
And you could argue that there's an inverse happening. Like, the chief rivals of this episode are Otto and Damon. Nobody has more bad blood, at least in this hour of television, than Otto and Damon. And Damon is all show, all flair, ruthlessness, loud brutality. You never look at this man even for a second and think tender or caring. But then when you peel it back, you start to really understand the sort of abandoned younger brother who is leading with love that might be in there somewhere. And Otto's the opposite, where you see him leading with love and then you unpack it and you're like, oh, you're a monster too.
Yeah.
And that's a very different approaches, and probably why they hate each other so much is because of that.
Right. And I want to talk. Yeah. So, I was tossing you, Lauren. Your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love what Alden just said. And for Damon too, again, going from like, comparing, contrasting Game of Thrones to, House of the Dragon, Damon to me is almost a Jaime-esque character where like you love to hate him. And he's similar to where like he doesn't trust anybody, but he trusts his family in a way. Like, he's very gentle with Rhaenyra. He brought her a gift. He was very comforting to her at the funeral for Emma. So
the only one.
That, right. And you can see that kind of like family oriented or family like togetherness that maybe he feels, but then outside of that, he does not. Again, he could not care less, kind of like Jaime Lannister. Like, he cared about Cersei and like their kids, but other than that,
and Tyrion,
right.
He's an excellent brother. No one can take that away from him, despite anything. He's an excellent brother, and when Damon is saying, 10 years you've never asked me, I only wanted this, I loved you, I thought that we were closer, the blood of the dragon is thick, and he's making all these points, and it's like he does. That's the thing that I took away from that episode so much is Ken, you mentioned he's the only one, that adding to Lauren what you brought up with that funeral scene, he is grieving very clearly. I thought in that scene, like, Matt Smith doesn't play that with a smirk. He's not like, my time is coming. It's just that he has a worst instinct. And then when riled up, he makes a choice. When Massaria and the gold cloaks are there, it's like him having that path of genuine uncle or awfulness, and he chooses that.
And Lauren, I definitely want to get to you on some of the bigger, what this episode was trying to communicate about, especially with Rhaenyra and Alicent, who we know are going to be at odds. But the tragedy is there's probably no good reason for them to. This world's going to rip them apart because this is what this society does. Again, reflection of our own society. It's looking at Damon. What I find often, a lot of folks like him, especially a lot of people in my life and my old line of work, these are very strong individuals who do things that other people just can't imagine because they don't need to have to do it. They don't have to do it in their daily life, but therefore their heart hardens and they have an ability to have great love for the people they know. But they have a absolute failure when it comes to taking that empathy and compassion to larger groups, i.e. what's going on with the Gold Cloaks and the show of power. We said one of the big themes in this episode was, how do you keep the peace? It starts from the beginning with even Corlys going, hey, there's this thing going on with the Cherokee, and no one wants to hear it, all the way down to just the morality of how you keep the peace and why. That goes into the prophecy. We'll start talking about that. But looking at Damon, I think there's a lot of men, and it's men mostly, generally speaking, in this world, in our own world, who have the ability to love the people in front of them or have a thought about how to love them, but they fail to connect to the larger groups. And there is this big gap in the empathy, and that leads to a lot of the pain, the violence, the senseless violence and destruction. I really see that in Damon, and it's hard, and it's also tragic at the same time, because it's like there's love in you, but how do we connect it to the larger scale? That's just one of the many things going on. There's obviously a lot of things going on, in this crazy show. But Lauren, I did want to kick it back to you on just some of your thoughts on Rhaenyra, Alicent, where they are in their life, and the stress that's being put on them already for their supposed roles in this world.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because, again, you set that up in this episode for them to be like literally best friends, maybe more? Question mark? Like I had some like, oh, okay. Like,
There's hopes. A lot of people would hope that. Yeah, in another kind of world. And I'm not talking about. There's always this weird balance between Game of Thrones is fiction, but just in world in general, what this art is trying to communicate. Maybe if they were allowed to, maybe that would be the case.
Right. So like seeing that relationship, and then knowing or getting a sense of what's about to happen. Like that's her best friend, who's literally going to be her mom now, who's then going to want to take her down. It seems like, again, from trailers and everything like that. So that's just a very interesting dynamic of how you see them as these innocent, young women, and now they're being thrust into these positions of power and these positions of separating them from their friendship. And it's just going to be like, man, I think that's going to be really interesting to see the downward spiral those two go down. It seems like, anyway, from my perspective, like that's what they're setting. They set you up with like, oh, they're best friends, and now they're going to be torn apart for X reason. So it's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be fun to watch. Honestly, it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I don't ever want to lead or guide you into a certain thought or anything, but watching them play in your own life, if you experience this, women are always pitted against women, right? There for a long time. You could only book one woman on a talk show. I know it's funny we got 2 men and one, but it's just like in the course of like a movie show, we can only get one, and if we got another one, well, we got to alternate them on weeks, and just that's a small microcosm of what you've dealt with. Do you pick up on some of that story so far of these two friends who are pretty much being and will be tasked with the fight against each other in a way, if that makes any sense of what I'm saying? I don't know. What's your thoughts on some of those big themes?
Yeah, no, you're totally right, Ken. Like, it's the setup of this world where, just like Emma told Rhaenyra, like, your battlefield isn't one that you want of glory in the battlefield. It's the bed. You have a royal room. So it's like setting up this like different ideas, because I feel like Rhaenyra definitely does not feel that way, whereas Alicent is very much that way of like, okay, I will do what I'm, I'll follow my father. I'll do what I'm told, everything like that. So, the opposites attract. So you can see why maybe they're best friends, but now that is going to be pulled apart again, because this world is pinning them and saying, just like kind of you're saying, Ken, like, you guys can't be really friends. Like, you don't, one is this, one is that. You can't be together and be friends when you have power involved, when she can be a queen and you can be a queen and blah, 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 blah. Like, they are pinning these women against each other. And it's just fascinating because it's always been like that in Game of Thrones too, right? I mean, we had in season 8, Arya and Sansa, Littlefinger trying to split those sisters apart. So it's like, now we're seeing that in a different way. But again, similarly, where these men of Westeros are going to begin splitting these like women together apart, because they probably know, like, if they were together, they'd be very powerful, smart, and independent women that can probably figure a lot of stuff out. And they're afraid of that. And that's why, they don't have the queen that never was and everything. They are afraid of what women can do in this world. So they keep them apart, So yeah, it's an interesting and fascinating theme from even, again, Game of Thrones till now. They plugged it back in, which is very fascinating. Very fascinating.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, thank you, Lauren. I appreciate your thoughts on that there and all that kind of stuff. So transition a little bit here. Great conversation. We wanted to get Lauren's deeper thoughts on the episode. We're going to go into another realm here. And Alden, I know you've got I keep wanting to say snowstorm, but it's like a snowstorm, but with water is what I'm told, right?
Right. That's a new thing. It's a freak thing that is just now happening for the first time.
And then
signaling the end days are upon us for sure.
Yeah, and I know because someone in a YouTube comment later will be like, "Well, Ken, snow and water." Yeah, I know how water. No, I know how it works. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Science.
For some reason, I just keep thinking snow. But Alden is at a South Florida storm. We might run into technical problems even more than we have already. So, Alden, I want to lead into the Rings of Rings of Power. Wow, Rings of Tower of Power. Great band, not really. Rings of Power trailer. Now, first thing I'll start with both of you here, talking about pitting people and shows and things against each other. Our society's obsession with competition, which I'm a fan of sports. I love a good competition, but the focus on it, we are not here to pit these shows against each other. We're going to either enjoy or not enjoy both of them based on their own merits. What a wonderful bounty we have as nerds right now with these two shows going pretty much side by side. But you got 9 million, so whatever, all these viewers for House of the Dragon. Good or bad, it's being talked about, and engagement is unfortunately measured just as engagement, not good or bad. And then along comes the Rings of Power trailer. Alden, did you have that feeling of, oh gosh, you're almost kind of rooting for Rings of Power to not get swatted away too fast?
Oh yeah, I'm rooting for Rings of Power on every level. And just real quick, as a if for any reason because to me I sound normal, and to me you all sound normal. So if I start sounding like a robot, Ken and Lauren will let me know in the private chat, and we'll get that handled.
Yeah,
but
no, you're doing good. And yeah, look, I love you using StreamYard. So if you use them out there, or you're from StreamYard, love you. But there's some limitations sometimes on the tech, including the volumes. They are what they are. So thank you all for bearing with us. I have OBS. Eventually, we'll just switch to OBS. But I like being able to bring comments in so I can see when Big Lou's talking to us. It's so fun. But even then, it's starting to not work. So there must be a snowstorm in Burbank right now. Anyway, go back. Yeah, go back to your point. Your thoughts on the trailer just emerging 2 days after.
Yeah, so my first note on this, to respond to what you just said about the competition, this could be a 2-hour conversation in and of itself, but I'll just throw it out there. I think that seeing these two things of a massive fantasy scale and immediately comparing them is as intellectually bankrupt as saying all Marvel movies are the same. It is the most useless. It is such an American, like, you go over to Japan and you unpack the amount of anime they have that tackles the same subject matter, be that samurai, be that schools, whatever, sports, and they embrace all of it. Meanwhile, in America, we're just like, well, they both have swords and dragons, so clearly they're the same, which is just, it's so lame. But aside from that, my biggest thought, and we've talked about this before on Casterly Talk, is this show had teasers and spots. It had a main teaser. It had a full trailer, had a Comic-Con trailer, and now it has an official trailer, which it has found more tears, which I guess is very Tolkien, right? It has found more tears than necessary for every step of this. It's almost hilarious. This one, I thought, though, just to begin to unpack it, it's the most modern. And that's a point that I have here, a second point here in our notes. I'll start there, and then we can go into key ideas. Do we care that there's modern music in this trailer and that it is more movie?
The fact that it was Aha's Take on Me was a little weird to me. No, was that not it? That was
the edit I sent you. That's what that was.
Oh, okay. By the way, I am loving. I don't know who does it. Give them credit. If this thing was made in 2007 end credit, it's I just absolutely loving that. No, I think it kind of needed that in a way, not necessarily just a song, but what you're describing. It was the biggest trailer I thought yet. And there's some positive reviews coming out of the first 2 episodes being screened for some people in the press. Putting those aside, I think I'm okay with it. It had a bigger feel for it there, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Lauren. If I'm wrong, please tell me.
No, I really loved the modern-ish kind of music to it. I think it gives it a different vibe, but it kind of still feels like Peter Jackson's, original Lord of the Rings. It's a nice little twist. I didn't mind it. I mean, it's like with, doing our Star Wars comparison, comparing, Mandalorian music to the original trilogies, all the Star Wars Skywalker saga movies. Like it's different, but it still feels like it
Yeah.
fits into the world. It was
Yeah.
beautiful, and I loved it. I'm totally okay with it. Like it just keep going. I loved it.
And you mentioned Jackson. Let us not forget Annie Lennox, Billy Boyd himself, all sang on those soundtracks. Sure,
Neil,
they were saved for the credits.
Neil Finn, because I'm a Crowded House fan. Neil Finn with the Misty Mountain song at the end of the first Hobbit. Sorry. I just wanted to mention Crowded House. All right, there you go. Carry on.
No, it was your radio instinct just kicked in. It's like with a trivia fact. No, but it's true. I mean, if we're watching this and all of a sudden, Jay-Z kicks in when Elrond enters Moria, that's going to be a little bit different feeling. But if they place this in the credits, if they place it over slow motion montages, like there's a time for any type of move. A director makes a big swing. This is Casterly talk. Go to Game of Thrones. You had the Bear and the Maiden Fair had that rock version that drops at the end of that episode. And so it's just it depends on context and choice. And I thought that we've had a bunch of orchestral music trailers to do this. I thought, of course it's going to cause a conversation. Everyone has taste. That's fine.
Sure.
But I thought it fit. I thought the voice, not to be a music review show, but I liked the song. I think that the voice was really lovely. I'm not familiar with the singer, but it fit. I thought it was really a cinematic trailer full of dazzling visuals, and that's the biggest takeaway coming out of these early reviews. Neil Gaiman got to see it. A couple other people were tweeting, and they said this is the most jaw-dropping television show, just as a spectacle, the biggest thing you'll ever see.
Yeah, I love that there. And Lauren, let me pick up that thread. But in chat, Bill Bro Bagginsons, who is our Tolkien lore head that we love because he's nice about it, he says, I didn't like the music at first, but it grew on me. In contrast, I always like the modern music trailers for GOT. That's a great point. James Vincent, what's his name? I got it right here. James Vincent McMorrow is the one who had the Wicked Game cover that they used, I think, going into season 5 or season 6. I can't remember. And if you're a Chris Isaac fan, you're so excited. But it was such a mood builder, that song for that season and what's going on. I think Game of Thrones always did a good job, or HBO, whoever put together those packages. So I think it was just a fun twist. And look, we're talking about it, so it struck some kind of chord. Lauren, I can kick it back to you. I think you were about to say something. I apologize.
No, you're good. No, I mean, I totally agree with the music. I think, again, it fits. It fit really, really well. I think the overall dazzling spectacle that this trailer showed, I mean, you can see where the money was put, man. I mean, when they're talking most expensive, television show ever, you see it. Like the visuals were spectacular, the outfits, the just the overall production. You can tell this is the money that Amazon is throwing everything at, and it was beautiful. It felt cinematic. I think you said that, Alden, too. Like it just felt like we are back in this beautiful world that we have seen, for not in a while, but we have been into, and it just feels like we're just going back. Just very similar to House of the Dragons. We're just going back into this world, and it felt amazing. And I'm very excited for this show. I am. And again, when we're talking about pinning, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon against each other, one love, man. Let's just all watch nerd stuff together and let's enjoy it, because this is
as Ringo Starr would say,
times.
peace and love. Stop sending me fan mail. Peace and love. Yes.
Exactly.
Very casually. Please leave me alone forever. Give Ringo a cameo. He could be Radagast or something.
I'd love Ringo and Rings of Power. Great stuff there. Alden, let's go where you want to take it, buddy. Your segment here. You got some other news to talk about, but also the key ideas. And we do.
Yeah, let's real quick. Let's just knock this out, and then we'll go into key ideas as the meat of this. It was asked of us on Twitter, but I knew I wanted to cover it anyway, so it's going to be here. I'm spinning out of what you were just talking about, Lauren, with the cinematic nature. While you were talking, the sentence, "This is not something you want to watch on the phone," came to mind. I was going to say that. And then I thought to myself, well, actually, that's on the news notes anyway in terms of how it should be watched. We talk about this with Casterly Talk, with House of the Dragon on Casterly Talk, this idea of the viewing experience and how you choose to do it. People had asked, Ken, Alden, Lauren, Casterly, are you going to go to the screenings? Now, they are limited. We got the first 2 episodes. So it was originally a September 2nd premiere, that it still technically is. You're going to be able to watch the first two on the 1st in the evening. So they're doing like a little special, it just called the release date first then. But they are doing an August 31st 2-episode screening at Cinemark Theaters. Cinemark has a page for this event. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Pacific that day. It's only available for Cinemark Movie Rewards members. That's not me. I'm an AMC person personally. You get a $10 snack voucher. So is anybody going to try to see this in theaters? And if not, what are your viewing plans going to be like for something that looks this good?
Look, I don't even currently have pants on. I'm not putting anything on to go see anything in a theater right now. I'm not even seeing Rogue One at the IMAX near me. Like I can throw a rock and I am not going. No, this is fun, and I'm as Alden and I have talked on. I'm part of the old internet, so I don't get press pass and stuff anymore. I don't go to screenings and premieres and all. I'm the old internet. You did the what news on the what now knows? No, so I'm gonna watch it when it comes on out here. It's gonna be fun. Going to be an event around the house here. We're cook some food, pour some drinks, and meet the Harfoots and everyone that we want, our new friends on that night. Lauren,
and what about you, Lauren?
Yes.
How are you going to watch this?
Yeah, I mean it's an intriguing thought to go see it on the biggest screen available, right? Because it feels so cinematic.
absolutely.
Definitely. Just like obviously with Rogue One, going back to see the IMAX, but I am with TV shows. I am one of those people that like I want to sit by myself or very little talking and just focus. So I feel like if I was in a theater watching this, I'd be like so distracted of like people talking, people eating popcorn. I'd be like, nope, can't handle it. So I will do my TV usual viewing and just wait till it comes out and watch it as it comes out for sure. It'd be a lot of fun.
We're going to have to add Lauren Romo to the Casterly Talk Antisocial Club.
So
far, not a single person that has been on this show in the last like 3 months has ever wanted to be like, yeah, I watch it with people. Ken, me, you, Donald Logue. Almost said the F word there. Everybody involved.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want that alone in the quiet.
What's funny is I think you said Donald Logue. It's Donald Long, Ranger Donald, but I'd love to think of Donald Logue.
Oh, Donald Logue. Yeah, he's the from yeah.
By the way, if you swear, I'll just drop that. Don't worry, we're good.
Donald Logue. I'm not sure if he watches. Donald Long does watch.
I'm a fan of the Dow, Steve. He might watch. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, it's funny. Look, it's not that I wouldn't want to experience this. Even Rogue One on IMAX. It's just a life thing more than anything. I joke, and I do have pants on. I wore them to this movie location tour, so I still have them on. Don't worry, both of you. But it's less of other people around. It's just a weird life thing, and I think I'd love to see it all on a big screen, but I think because in my head and in my heart, this is a television program. I don't think of it in those terms. I didn't even go see Watchers on the Wall when they showed that in the theater, and I'd love to see that in the theater. And I think I had an opportunity to. And if opportunity comes, I'd go. It's something. Even with the Star Wars stuff, I cannot wait to see Star Wars in a theater again with the big Star Wars movie. But because I'm like, oh, cool TV show. I just go, I don't know, maybe it's the kid that grew up in the 80s. It's time to watch Cheers and Frasier. More Frasier than Cheers because that's what I was allowed to watch. I just think of it differently.
It is a different feel. I was fortunate enough to see the first 3 Mandalorian episodes in 2019 in a theater, just back to back to back. They didn't cut them all together, but they just let it roll. And it can enhance, like I think that Deborah Chow's chapter 3, all the Mandalorians fly over the roof. We had Mando Merc sitting behind us. They went crazy. Like that's a great moment. You can't write that. But at the same time, there's just something to intimacy, especially for those of us that are like really big character people. So I don't feel like I'm losing anything. What I would like is to be able to watch these in the comfort and then go to the theater, but since they're not doing it that way.
Yeah, actually, quite frankly, both is and I look. My pal Mark Ellis will tell you he loves the Star Wars TV shows, but he misses John Williams' music just punching you straight in the face once the movie starts. And I don't disagree with that at all there. So, all right, cool. If you're out there and you're going to go, maybe you are at a screening and no spoiler pictures, but tweet us a fun picture. at Casterly Talk and let us know that you're out at seeing Rings of Power. Alden, in the time, we do have a lot to get to, but I do want to get into some of the themes this trailer put out. It's a great trailer. There's some good vibes coming out of the press screenings for some of the episodes there. So, hey, it's a good time to be a Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power fan right now, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, the great thing about the Rings of Power trailers overall thus far, and this one is no exception, is that when you and I, Ken, we've said off air a lot, like it's not so much deep diving as just engaging with what's there. These trailers are the ultimate with what's there trailers. Yeah. They have theme statements flat out. The dialogue selections are impeccable. So you start with Galadriel, who I will only say her name appropriately from now on. It's not Galadriel, it's Galadriel. And she has sort of been positioned as the lead, which very excites me as the one. There's many, but as the core lead. And she's right off the bat. My brother gave his life hunting the enemy, Sauron. His task is now mine. Speaking to themes of inheriting struggles, trying to fulfill the older promise. You have a lot of people asking her, why do you keep fighting? You fought long enough. Put up your sword. What are you doing? You don't have mud all over you this time. What were you out doing out there? And then it rounds out this sort of section, Galadriel wondering, rounding out this trailer, without this, what am I to be? So how do you all feel about Galadriel having this burden of family and loss, but also an obsession with a goal?
Lauren, step into that batter's box. Take a swing.
I'll take a swing, buddy. So it's interesting because we were just talking about on House of the Dragon how women in that world were kind of looked at like, you should just kind of be the baby makers, just the women that just support these male, these male characters. And it feels like Galadriel is kind of in that position as well. Like one, just like you were saying, Alden, them telling her, why are you fighting? Put your sword down. You don't need to be doing this. But her strength is her knowing that she belongs where she belongs, that she needs to do this. She wants to do this, not just because, she feels like she has to, but for her family, right? She wants to keep doing what her brother's doing. So I love that theme, again, how just you were showing these women overcoming things within these worlds. And Galadriel is no different. So it's really going to be cool. I'm glad we're focusing on her. She's an interesting character. It looks, again, from the shots that we got in this trailer, I mean, just amazing fight sequences it looks like that she's going to be a part of, and just among many other things. So I'm excited that she is the focus, and that this theme around her of maybe overcoming, what people expect her to be and want her to be, I think is going to be really fascinating to follow.
Great stuff. Look, we're friends. I call her Gala. So, Big G.
Very casual.
Yeah, Big G. Call her Big G. It's all good. We're good friends. First of all, I love what you're saying, Alden. Yeah, this is I describe it as an ensemble cast, not unlike in Game of Thrones or any other kind of fantasy show, Wheel of Time, whatever you have, Witcher. There's a lot of folks, a lot of characters we're going to spend a lot of time with. But yeah, she's centered. And that might be because, hey, she's the most you remember from the other films, which is this weird thing where they want to connect, almost legally can't connect, but they also want to make sure someone who hasn't really seen the films or who isn't up on Tolkien legal estate wranglings can go, hey, Gala, Big G, I know her. So I think the trailer did a really good job of that. I love what you're saying here, the why you keep fighting and the connection and the duties and the stress that just might come with that. There are a lot of stressful shots with Galadriel right now, but the line without it, what am I to be? And this is one of the things I saw online too, is being discussed. And I love just, when you scroll through and just something kind of grabs you. So this isn't necessarily a super original thought for me, but the idea of that also represents like her searching for who she truly is. And we know what she's going to be in this show, or at least the start of it. And we know where she kind of ends up, this elder states elf, if you will, down the line, and this journey. And so there's a transition possibly coming up, and this journey should affect her as well as confirm things in her heart. But I just wondered too, how much of this, because it's a scene in which Ned Stark is saying, I'll never be able to separate him. Put down your sword, right? Stop fighting. And there's kind of that, like, well, also, who am I without that? Right? Who it's, I always go, it's a weird, I always go to Helen Hunt and As Good as It Gets when her son is finally healed by Harold Ramis. And she's like, great, this upsets me because now I don't have this in my life. And what am I? It's horrible. This thing was, I wanted this problem fixed, or I wanted this mission complete. And now it is. And what am I without that? That's a great thing to focus on in Galadriel's journey, Big G's journey going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great theme that you see a lot in post-war stories. And the thing about Tolkien's mythology is that all of pretty much any era of Tolkien is post a war. Whatever war that is, there's always one, and then the rest of the characters for the age are post it. Even the undefined fourth age that starts at the end of Lord of the Rings, all of them are going to have to deal with post-war. King Aragorn will have to deal with, or King Elisar, he becomes. So it's this idea of I don't know how to not fight, and I get the energy from Galadriel, G Money, of this energy of I resent the fact that you are all resting on your laurels and being complacent. So there's the why are you doing this personally, but also the lackadaisical attitudes maybe of some of these leaders of like, oh, we're fine. Didn't you see us destroy Morgoth? We beat Sauron. He didn't care, and he's not coming back.
Yep.
And that's a big theme of ignoring it.
It's I'm not saying anything new that isn't out there, but I mean, it's Tolkien post World War I and knowing that World War II is coming and him writing about some of the stuff. It's almost like fantasy things contain real world lessons and connections.
Almost, right? Almost. Yes. Another lesson that we've got here, moving on to the character of Halbrand, who I believe is an original character. Bilbo Baggins in the comics and the comments will let me know if he's loosely based or something, but I think he's original, played by Charlie Vickers. I forgot to mention Galadriel, of course, played by Morfydd Clark, spelled with 2 D's, but it's Morfydd. Love that Welsh alphabet. He's got the classic sort of redemption thing going on. He says, I'm not the hero you seek. He's tied with Galadriel somehow in this journey. She says, whatever it was you did, be free of it. There's a lot of that sort of make the next right choice, even if you made all the wrong ones. And that's very, very classic and very Aragorn and very, very Boromir. It's sort of something that you need. It's sort of an essential ingredient.
And Bill Bro has checked in. Halbrand is original. This is why Bill Bro is on the staff. He's not on the staff yet. Maybe. No, I love it there. Yeah, no, big stuff there. Lord, I would definitely want to slide your thoughts here real quick. But yeah, I love it. This is the stuff I kind of want from this big good versus evil fantasy stuff. I love having that character because it resonates with me. The Aragorn and Return of the King stuff with Elrond, just absolutely some of my favorite stuff because it resonates with me as someone who feels he spent a lot of his life shying away from maybe what he could have been in a lot of different arenas. And it's easy to do that and put aside the range or be who you're born to be. I love that kind of energy. So Halbrand, welcome to the party, pal. You bring with you a classic Running from Destiny lesson with you. So Lauren, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I with both of you, I think this type of character, again, very similar to Aragorn, hesitant, not the one that wants to be a leader, but maybe down the line will be the leader that they need. You know, even though his past has maybe taught him that he's doing stuff wrong, he shouldn't be, you know, somebody in the position he is. You're excited to see his journey. Man. You're excited to see him get to where he needs to get with maybe Galadriel's help, you know, so it's going to be a really fun journey to see how those two are connected, how they become connected, and where they go through in their story throughout this first season. It's going to be really fascinating. I'm really excited to get this type of character for sure.
Love that. I love that the hurricane apparently walked into Alden's house and started doing the dishes.
Well, all of a sudden, Mando, the resident direwolf pup, had some thoughts there. He's normally so quiet during podcasts.
It's all good. Good. I love it. I love it. It's great stuff, Lauren. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lauren, that was very well said. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's that stuff. It's essential. It's essential to the journey. And I also think that you know, putting it directly with these two, somebody that's like, I can't stop with one goal, and somebody that's like, I would much rather run and deny some goals. Right. Is you know, and one being immortal, one being a man. There's a little bit of a fun contrast there. Also, the gender contrast, also the historical context contrast that she has, as she has pointed out in a couple of the trailers. seen things that no one else has seen because she's significantly older than Elrond. She's of that Gil-galad age range. Me saying Gil-galad age range is the most oversimplification, and if you're an expert like Bill Bro, I apologize. But so the next two are sort of tied together in terms of choosing a better way. You had Galadriel again saying, choose not the path of fear, but that of faith. I wrote here, confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. I mean, elf. And then after that, you had Largo Brandyfoot, played by Dylan Smith. Largo Brandyfoot is going to be the father of our main Harfoot, these sort of proto-hobbits. The main one is Nori, played by Markella Kavanagh. She's the one we've seen a lot of, the young girl with the leaves in her hair, and they're very woodsy, very dirty. And he says, one thing we can do better than any creature in all Middle-earth. We stay true to each other with our hearts even bigger than our feet. And I just think that choosing faith doesn't mean get down and pray. I connected those sort of, I mean, it can, but I connected those sort of in the way of we can choose something better, whether that's faith, togetherness, heart, all that stuff. I mean, this is the other fantasy, right? Like we talked about House of the Dragon, and we talked about guys pimping out their daughters, and now we're in the one that's the choose better, choose light. It's always there.
Yeah. Also, this was my favorite part of the trailer when Largo said that we stayed true to each other with our hearts even bigger than our feet, and you have that big line about fear or fear, faith, not fear. Right when Galadriel says faith, that's when George Michael's Faith hit. I was just when the trailer put me in.
Incredible.
Faith. I was it's sold. I wasn't before.
Somebody please make these edits. We're just handing you gold. We can make the next meme, the next Linkin Park meme.
Oh yeah, we could. You could.
Yeah, Bill Bro says in chat, faith in your fellowship with others. Lord, your thoughts on faith, family, and Harfoots. The proto hobbit.
First of all, I'm excited to see almost maybe the beginning of the Shire folk and all this stuff. So getting these type of characters is going to be really fascinating. I think, again, as a movie Lord of the Rings fan, I always found the Shire and that kind of society or that set of characters really interesting. So now seeing these characters be a part of another big adventure with these other, the elves and the dwarves and everything, and man, it's going to be really, really cool. And again, I like this theme of, faith in each other and follow your heart, just like he's telling his daughter. It's very, again, very Bilbo with Frodo, or Frodo and Sam, like these characters coming together because of the faith in one another and the faith that they have in each other. So I mean, it goes with these type of characters for sure. So I'm excited to see these people for sure. These type of characters come back.
Yeah. And how often in Lord of the Rings, in the books and in Jackson's, did an important moment entirely hinge on somebody just believing in someone else in the group? Like Gandalf's whole, look for my coming at dawn. It's like that's a big ask, man. You're asking us to hold this down in the face of certain death that you're just going to come back. And Gandalf does that many times. And they're just in general, like Elrond, knowing that these 9 people, some of whom don't even like each other, are going to be able to pull through. Even though Elrond's jaded by that point, it still comes down to just believing in people.
Yeah.
It really does. You said it so well, both of you there. But the ideas of togetherness, kindness, and community, it's what we want out of these types of fantasy shows. I always do this comparison of I really do believe it. I was just talking to our buddy Alex Backus off air on a text exchange of just like, I go to Star Wars to show me what could be and the choices that will lead you there. I personally go to the world of Game of Thrones to show me what is and how we can make better choices than that. And it's kind of this duality of these fantasy genre, but these two type of approaching styles, which is why I don't even want these two shows. They don't need to compete because I think they're doing different things. And I really do love this. Actually might be my favorite part of the trailer. There was some warmth and comfort in that face of Largo Brandyfoot, which, by the way, sounds like that name of the name of your favorite club in LA, mix it with the favorite drink that club sells. You got your name, you got your Harfoot name, Largo Brandyfoot. It really was in this, because it was a note, a different kind of musical note almost versus the rest of the trailer, which is big, epic, and faith and choice and destiny and fighting and war and hate. And you got this guy that's just kind of like, hey, wait, we're almost, I get it, we're almost nothing. People look down on us, literally, figuratively, all kinds of ways, but we have each other. It was really warm. It was really comforting. And this definitely needs to have that. I always never doubted it would. So I actually like good old logo and this idea of togetherness, kindness. That's a good thing in community.
I love it too. And just to round that out, obviously I'm picking a few ideas out of there. Everybody watching, you're going to find things in this trailer too that we didn't even touch on. You have the human elf romance with Arandir, where that's clearly very complicated given the difference in lifespan and the life path and everything. And then you also see this dinner that's happening that Elrond is attending with the dwarves, and how that's clearly a far cry from their place, from their current race relations in the Third Age that we've seen in the books and in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, both trilogies. And so it's a matter of how is that going to change? How do communities fracture as much as how communities come together? It's a lot going on here. Like we said, maybe these are about things. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're about things. And I always say that with a little tongue in cheek and a little smart ass vibe, but it's just true. This is all art. It is all communication, and sometimes the message isn't necessarily intended for you. There's other people that need to hear it, even if you think you've got this message, and no message is too small, and all the messages are potentially really important. So good stuff. As Bill Bro said in chat, actively want Rings of Power to wear its heart on its sleeve, and I absolutely am with you on that there. Final thoughts on this trailer, Lauren, then we're going to get some questions that our listeners sent in.
Yeah, again, the cinematic feel. I'm ready to get back into this, Lord of the Rings world. I'm excited to see the dwarves. I mean, we Alden just touched on them, but to kind of see them at their height almost, like in the caves, and maybe is that Moria or not, like just to see that whole part of the lore is going to be really, really cool to dive into. So I'm super excited for that part of it as well.
Yeah, look, I'm kind of a sucker. Sorry, I was going to give you the last thought. One more thought. I'm kind of a sucker when it comes to like stuff like this. Even in the Game of Thrones Westeros world of going back and going, that's Harrenhal. Oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen there. I love that kind of. Hell, I went on this movie locations tour. I went to the ET's house. It looks nothing like it did 40 years ago. The house does air around, but it's like you're like, oh my god, Steven Spielberg stood right here. Oh my god, I love the history of that stuff. So I love, going into the mines of Moria would be a fun thing indeed. So good stuff.
Definitely.
Good stuff. Yeah. Good discussion. Alden, thank you very much for pulling stuff out of that trailer, especially on a day that I had today. So, on that note, we are going to get to some questions here. I've got to pull some of them up here, but Alden, we got about 20 minutes left here in the show. What question do you want to get to first? And if you pick Charlie Ashby's question and he didn't bribe you,
I mean, Charlie Ashby and I have a long-standing life arrangement. So people think I have known Charlie Ashby for 10 years. It's a long time. But yeah, we could start with Chuck's question if you want to pull it up. Good old Chucky Ashby.
Yeah. You just can't. I can't format it. With the day I had, nothing could be formatted to put in.
No worries.
Just read.
I will. Yeah. I'll pull them up here and I will choose. So let's start with that. Just while we're on the subject of Lord of the Rings, actually, you just said. Actually, no, this is the House of the Dragon question. I am so sorry. But anyway, we're going to start there. With the historical accounts in the books, much like in real life, being a potentially biased, exaggerated account, Fire and Blood being all narrators, what story elements are you excited to see the truth about in this show and why?
Yeah, God bless you, Chuck. That's it makes me try to remember all of. He doesn't seem like a Chuck. Do you call him Chuck?
I call him Chuck ironically. He doesn't like it.
Okay, that makes sense. I've met him. He's not a Chuck. No, I'll respect Chucks. He's a Charles or a Charlie. Yeah, absolutely. I call him. He makes me call him Mr. Ashby. Without getting into spoilers, especially with Lauren around.
Right.
There's some stuff around that dragon pit that it's one of the most horrific, harrowing part of that story in Fire and Blood that I just want to see how, not only just how accurate it was, I just want to see it play out and what's the results and how people in this story view what happened? Do they take it? You know, I always go to a very real world. It's a partial quote from a larger quote from, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. of riots are the language of the unheard. I'm paraphrasing all of it there. Of course, I get it, but just there's some of that angle to the history in this time period. Small folk. These are the ones who, as we've already seen, the gold cloaks are ripping apart, whether they committed crimes or not, or deserve that or not. It's happening, and they have thoughts on what's going on. And there's some stuff there. I just want to see how it plays out in the show and actually see as best we can learn the truth of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And again, I'm not as book familiar as Ken is, but I will say I think I'm about to see a lot of the ones I'm interested in. The two chief ones are, it said, and people can go to the Damon Targaryen explainer that we posted. That's sort of a history video. And, you know, much is made of the whole, like, you know, air for a day, and we got to see that amazing scene. And then he's like, I'm going to send you away. And to my understanding, in Fire and Blood, it's like we send you away, and then it's sort of like vague what he gets up to until the next key event. And I'm interested to see, like, I want to see him, like, stewing. I want to see him on Dragonback being like, you're going to send me away. Like, I want to see, like, the internal thoughts. It's the small moments I think I'm most interested in that a show can define that a history book doesn't have the room or the format for. And then the other big thing is there's a certain title that Damon gets, King of the Stepstones, I believe. And I want to see how he got that gloriously rendered and directed. And I'm excited for that. And it's in the trailers. You get a little bit of that, but I can't wait to see that defined and explored.
And it seems like Corlys is concerned about the Stepstones there.
Yeah. And it seems like only the two of them are on the same page. So I'm looking forward to seeing that defined as well. Moving over here back into our
Oh, you want to see some Rings of Power or no, Lord, I didn't. Did I get your answer? Sorry.
No, I mean, real quick. I mean, I'm kind of with both of you. The one like historical event I think that I'm excited for maybe them to explore, and maybe we get the truth, is the Song of Ice and Fire. Like, how accurate are these, you know, these visions that these Targaryens have? Like, how deep does it go? How much does each Targaryen know of certain things? You know, so I think that type of that story, I think I'm excited to see, and how that all plays out, and how it will obviously play out as we know into Game of Thrones. So like, I think that type of historical like accuracy of the visions, where do these like why do these visions come to them, and just certain kind of aspects of that, I think I would look forward for them to explore.
Great stuff. Good question, Chuck. See, it doesn't seem
good old Charles.
No, it doesn't fit, but it bugs him, so it will continue. Somebody who I do not want to bother, who I adore on Twitter, Andy at a One Hat Town. This is a Tolkien question going to the Rings of Power side. Queer readings of Tolkien's work have been an integral part of queer culture, as well as Andy's fandom since the 60s and likely earlier. Do you think now is the time for on-screen unambiguous queer rep? What sorts of characters would you want to potentially tell that kind of story? So, I'm going to throw out the, not disclaimer, but just like the qualifier that I'm not a part of the community. So it's an outsider's thing for me. But I will just say that I think that it is absolutely the time. I think it's long overdue the time. And as for what sorts of characters, I mean, look at all these incredible, wholesome, loving people. I would love to see it in the Harfoots while they're partying and everything, mostly because I don't want, you know, the queer characters to get introduced and then slain in battle. But if they want to have an immortal girlfriend for Galadriel or something like that, I would support that as well.
Oh, that's a good call.
Absolutely, Lauren.
Good call. Yeah. No, yeah, I think for, again, caveat kind of with Alden too, I'm not part of that community, but I think it is time for these type of characters to be represented in these type of stories. You know, I mean, look at maybe, you know, non-binary kind of characters who just, don't really identify one way or another. I think that'd be a really interesting kind of story to watch and unfold with any characters. For sure. So I think that'd be an interesting angle within this type of world, to have that kind of, maybe that type of character show up and see where they land and how they maneuver within this, you know, maybe man man, more world than most.
Yeah, well said, both of you too. We absolutely just affirm that here Casterly Talk is part of a large table that we want everyone to come sit at us with. So, yeah, same echoing what you guys are saying about being an ally of the community, whether or not I'm directly a part of it. But here's what else. This just came up on a Force interview with the great Riley Silverman. And she is got a great book coming out, Exploring Tatooine. And I asked her about Dr. Aphra. Same kind of vibe. And I'm paraphrasing. I want to make sure I'm trying to be careful. It's her words. Go listen to the interview. It's on the Force Center podcast feed or the YouTube channel too. She's just really interested because it's a no-brainer. Not only is it time, should have been time. We need it to be time. That's without a doubt. Just like you both saying, I support you on that answer because I have that answer too. But Riley, is part of that community, was like, Aphra's her character, right? And she was like, I kind of said, and I'm totally paraphrasing of, I'm kind of glad, or yes, but I want it to be when it's the right time. Meaning, I think, and this is my words, my thoughts. It's that we're in a more confident time for some of these shows and some of these showrunners and writers, and the more diverse voices in there, where they're even with some of the corporate pressures that might still exist, societal issues and pressures that might still exist, unfortunately. If Aphra comes out too early as a live action character or show where she doesn't have the room to breathe that she does in the comics and the books, the key component of that character, as Riley said, the disaster lesbian, is gone. It might be removed, it might be watered down, it might not be right, which is important, right? Because again, should be time, should have been time. We can only go forward. So I think now is the time. I think shows and the people making the shows are way more confident when they get the chance, and there's still issues of the chance. So now is time, the right time, and to see just two L's, Galadriel. You said it. I love that answer. Elf and human doesn't matter, right? But to actually see it not coded, but to actually just see it up front and center, because I think what this question is getting at. I think I would love to see it specifically in Rings of Power. Love to see it in House of the Dragon, but love to see it in Rings of Power because I think you could deal with it in a more hopeful way, if that makes sense, than some of the stuff we already know from Game of Thrones world. Just the reality.
100%.
I kind of want to see the one side of fandoms just completely melt down when that
selfishly, yes,
right, selfishly, I want to see that because again, just like we said, it's time. It's time for any of these franchises, Star Wars, Marvel, any of them, to bring in these type of characters and to have them not just be a side character, but important to the story, main characters for sure, 100%.
And to have peace. I mean, I go back. I'm a Buffy fan my entire life. I'm not going to spoil Buffy for anyone that hasn't watched it, but there's a queer romance in there that doesn't end happy. Loras did not have a happy life in Game of Thrones, or at least a happy ending. He had good years, but he had a horrible ending. Renly, a horrible ending. You can go on and on and on. They should be able to have adventures and badass moments and cool things, but also not get discarded. And so there's a lot definitely to pack in. I think that this is the world to do it in, if I have to choose out of these two. Because before there was Finn and Poe and are they going to be a thing, it was Frodo and Sam. That was sort of the original, like, there's these two guys, and it's so clearly to everyone this. But because of the time in which they were created, it couldn't be. I would love to see something like that.
And I said, easy answer is of course. More complicated is let's get there now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a question here from Bill Bro, who threw it in on Twitter, which is a light one to come off of that on. And it says, for House of the Dragon, do we think the show is giving us the punchline to Tyrion's infamous brothel joke, which is, everybody remembers, we didn't get the full joke, with Viserys's opening line in the series where he says, it was the other way around. Are those the same joke? Or it was the wrong end. Yeah, whatever. Are those the same joke? Headcanons, yes or no?
I hope so. I hope it's going to be drawn out for as long as we have Viserys around. I absolutely hope so. Bill Bro, that is a great question. I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah, connect it. Please connect it. That'd just be amazing. It's a very small but it'd be hilarious if that.
I hope it keeps going. I hope that the 10,000 ships spinoff has part of it. I hope the Snow sequel. I hope it's Jon in the final season of Snow that finally says the whole joke. You know, one time I went to a brothel. It'd be fantastic. So I had to throw that question in there because it's great.
That's great.
I really hope that's the case.
Yeah, that's great.
What do you think, Ken? We got time for one more?
Yeah, a couple more in here. Yeah, then we can pack up our bags and head on down the road.
Sure. And just so everybody knows, I am keeping questions on file, either literally on file or I bookmarked them. So if we don't get to them today, if they can roll over, they will. As applicable, we have a question here from Bill Sheehy from the Skywalking League podcast. He said, this is something. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is the perfect prequel because it did something emotional and new while deepening the lore and giving more context to the original stories and the other prequels. In what ways are you expecting or wanting House of the Dragon and or Rings of Power to do the same?
The Rings of Power ones, it's interesting. Like I always keep saying, I know my way around the world. I just can't give direction. So I'm just wide open to learn so much of that. It's going to be very easy to recontextualize things for me because I'll be like, hey, look at that. I didn't know that. And it's like, his name's Aragorn. Ken. Oh, okay. But in House of the Dragon, where I'm much more familiar with that world, this is why I go into the prophecy thing that shows up there at the end. It's so thematically strong. We really celebrated that on Sunday night with Andres it's thematically this extra burden, the burden of leadership and of keeping people together who don't want to be together. Not unlike, by the way, Mance Rayder and how he united everyone north of the wall. We must work together. So there's big themes in it, but also just to add to some of the Targaryen lore and add to where we end up and some of the tragedies. Who knew it along the way? I think I see a lot of people having fun with that speculation. I personally don't care right now. We'll find that out. It's just what can it add to the very end of the story, both the one on the show and the one George will eventually tell. How can it factor in and what depth will add to that? It's just a fun little wrinkle as well as a big thematic tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, for me, Rings of Power, I'm similar with you, Ken. Like I'm glad just to be in there. I'll take whatever.
Just glad to be on the team.
Right. I'm just glad to be on the team, man. I'm just glad to be there. I'm excited to hear more of what they do with Rings of Power. Game of Thrones, I think it is a little more interesting because I am just a little bit more invested in that series. So I think finding out, just like you said, Ken, the Targaryens. What the heck happened to this family that just completely destroys? We're seeing it, obviously, but that completely destroyed this dynasty that had this hold over this world. They had dragons. They had it all. Like, seeing that, you hear in Game of Thrones, like, you know, the Targaryen, the dynasty. Now that we're in this prequel, I'm excited to get more information on them, more of their story, what really this clear civil war within the family is going to do. And it sets it up, obviously, in the very beginning of the episode 1, where they said Jaehaerys, you know, knew that the only thing that could bring the Targaryens down are themselves. And it's totally true because we see that in Game of Thrones and we see that the beginnings of it here now too. So I think for me, it's more of the Targaryen dynasty, learning more of their backstory and just the complete downfall of that family, of that house.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love that. I love so much of that. I will use this opportunity, A, to keep us on time, and B, to be an annoying content person to say, you can catch my answer in a video coming out on Casterly Talk probably tomorrow. So if you're watching this live, it's coming soon. If you're watching it after the fact, it's probably already there. I'm doing an exploration into what Aegon's dream means and what it could mean and what I think it means and what I think it changes and what I think it deepens and stuff like that. So this is my wheelhouse. If you ever read anything I've ever written, either article-wise or Twitter-wise or anything like that, is my cup of tea. Is this thing that we drop into the water and the ripples change everything forever. And I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is the perfect sort of like golden example, like Hall of Fame example of like you insert something and everything before and after is not only different but better. So that really excites me, and I love that Bill brought that up. And then if we can fit in a teeny tiny quickest possible one, Ken, what do you think?
Yeah, do it. Let's do it.
Now this one I will recuse myself because I know the answer because of the press got a certain amount of episodes. So I do know this answer, so I'm just going to let you talk about it. When do you think the time jump is going to happen?
Well, I know too, because I think it's out there. Someone just tweeted us or put it in the comments.
They did. Oh, okay, because I knew, and I remember texting you, Ken, and saying, "Oh, I know how they're handling the timelines," and you were like, "I don't want to know."
I don't want to know. And then someone in one of our YouTube videos just like, "Oh, it's happening here."
Well, Lauren, take a guess.
I'll take a guess. I don't know if it will be, next episode. It's possible, but I think we'll start getting the time jump very, very soon. Maybe next episode. Definitely, I think episode 3. Because you hear Rhaenyra's older voice in the beginning doing that whole kind of prologue, monologue, but I think we get that time jump maybe halfway through next episode, but definitely my guess is episode 3 for sure, maybe within the next episode. I think we gotta get there, because I think you set up the early stuff good enough. Now we gotta time jump it and just see where we're at after a certain point for sure.
Well, this is a fun game of and Ken, you've been in this spot before, either respecting embargo or things like that, where you're like, I don't know, but really you do know. So it's one of those situations for us right now. But I think
I'll do one. Do I think Palpatine will be in Rise of Skywalker? I don't know.
Ken Napzok, everybody.
that was me during the what spaceship is Din Djarin gonna fly next? I was like in my mind, I'm like, it's an N1 Starfighter. I'm so excited, but I couldn't tell anybody. So that's Eric Monroe's question. Thanks, Eric. You're the best.
I think Eric. Sorry, my apologies. I think Eric put a call.
No.
I couldn't pull it off of Anchor today. I apologize, Eric. We'll get to it next time out.
And so I think Ken, if you want to call it, we can.
We'll call into the ring. The rest telling us to go home. We are going to wrap up this episode here of Casterly Talk Live. Q&As during this season and beyond. We will try to work in some Q&As on this Thursday time slot. But I think already next week I have a conflict. So just bear with us. Or maybe one day it's just Alden and Lauren and other people from our universe. I don't have to have my dumb ass around all the time. All right. We'll see. But thank you for joining us. Those who are watching live, those who are listening later. I want to also let you know before we sign out, we'll be doing our episode 2 breakdown. We're recording that later Sunday night and then getting it out as soon as we can. Video and audio. And Rachel Cushing, Levine, will be joining us for that episode, which finally worked out that schedule. So it'll be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. And going to be a lot of fun. So Lauren, thank you so much for joining us for all the show today. It's been fun having you call in. Tell them where they can find you and your shows.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to talk Rings of Power, House of the Dragon with both of you. So thanks for having me. You can follow me on Twitter at Lauren Romo, and then you can follow the Galactic Podcast at the Galactic Pod on Twitter. And we are on Apple Pod, Google Play, Spotify, all the major platforms. So go check us out. And Ken, did you know, real quick, you are a Funko Pop buddy?
No, I didn't know.
Gosh. As Sir,
Is
Sir
that Davos?
Seawood, yes.
Yeah,
Davos
look
does
at
kind
that.
of look like Ken.
Right?
I'm telling you, I connect. I once stood out of a hotel in San Diego next to Liam Cunningham while he smoked. And, same vibe. Just I didn't have the cigarette. Same grumpy but friendly vibe. Yeah, that's right.
Ken playing younger Sir
Yeah, absolutely. Ken in an Onion Knight spinoff. Ken, so he's like from the Flea Bottom area of LA,
great.
right? Yeah.
It'd just be him and I doing dueling monologues where I would be like, I'm only a podcaster, so I don't really.
Yeah.
But I think that I am.
I apologize, Your Grace. I do have a flea bottom accent. He's the best. That was great. That was hilarious, Lauren.
Thank you for your producing. Thank you, Lauren. Alden, thank you for your producing work today. Really appreciate it. Tell them where they can find you outside of this world. And yes, you're right. Once I get that thumbnail done, we're going to have a video locked and loaded shortly here that Alden put together. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me, of course, here doing the coverage for House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, and who knows what else. And we'll also be doing the Podathon as a community September 17th. That's going to be where Octo Radio is, which is my podcast. You can find that all over social podcast platforms, AHCHTO Radio. Octo Radio is where I do all my Star Wars stuff, but it is also going to be one of the centerpieces for this event. I'm very proud to say I've been interviewing the cam with Ryan Johnson, and I can say this, spoiler alert, it's really good because he knows a lot of stuff, and he's a very good person to talk to. So look forward to that. And you can also find me on the One and Done Film Club. Batman Returned, a show that I do not with Chuck Ashby, with Charlie Ashby. That's going to be coming back soon. If a Batman movie can get made, who knows? Because things are crazy right now. But aside from that, just on the internet at that Alden Diaz, THATALDEN DIAZ.
Love that. Love you all. Follow us on Twitter at Casterly. Took me at Ken Napzok. Go to kennapzok.com for more information. Got a comedy show coming up in Burbank. Big anniversary show at Flappers in Burbank if you're local. All right, friends. Thank you all. This has been fun. We've been hanging out with all of you. We'll see you next time here on Casterly Talk.